are in the home stretch. We're in the last topic, and it is Synthesize Master Pal. And we're going to look at Engage Naturally, and then we're going to just take a moment to consider how we might plan and prioritize what is next for Master Pal for you. So I'm going to give just a moment, and if you want to pause this video and quiz yourself and see how many Master Pal topics do you recall from the videos that we have looked at today. All right, so if you are back, we'll go ahead and take a look at these. See how you did. Motivate, accept multiple modalities, statements more than questions, time, both language development and wait time. Engage naturally is the one that we're up against, we're about to explore, so you might not have gotten that one. And response not required, that is our master. And then for PAL, we have presume potential, appropriate prompting, and let the child lead. Okay, so this is where we are. Engage naturally is really this module is sort of based on this key idea that we want to engage in communicative interactions that are person-focused and responsive to the activity and the environment. So this is really about setting our agenda aside and seeing how can we be engaging, motivating, naturalistic in the way we interact. There are lots of general topics that are explored, which have been touched on in the other modules as well. So again, this is just a snapshot. We'll take a look at a couple of these. There are slides that look at communication opportunities and how to provide those. Semantics, how the language we use impacts the message we send. Of course, language development, and then emotional competence and self-determination. So one of the examples of ways that we can create communication opportunities, I think some of this I wanted to provide some really concrete ideas about what can I do in my life to start to make AAC more of a habit. So one of these is to have low-tech AAC everywhere. Some families or school teams benefit from using a lanyard, and I really like to have a core board on one side and then a social board on the other so that we have a couple different ways of access to different kinds of vocabulary. You can also engineer the environment by providing low-tech boards, laminated, maybe on the door to go outside or near a child's bed, in the bathroom, on the refrigerator. Also, making a plan for wet and messy activities can be really useful. Low-tech is really good for this, or whether it's sand play or water play or face paint, or finger paint, and those kinds of things. Just thinking ahead can allow you to consider, gosh, how can I include AAC in this activity? Thinking about the language that we use and whether or not it focuses on communication. Sometimes the language that we use is really geared towards motor compliance tasks. So for instance, if you say, tell me, rather than hit the button, then you're focusing on communication. If you say, I want to know what you think about this, rather than find Monday, you're really focusing on communication. Also, the way that you respond when there's a disruption or things don't seem to quite make sense. If you say, that's interesting, or can you tell me more later, or you're full of surprises, values the communicative attempt rather than just kind of shutting it down by saying something like, that's not the right answer. When we engage naturally, we also recognize that different kids need different things. There are different drivers and different things that make kids tick, but that's really fundamental into supporting their learning and their communication needs. Like I said earlier, I have two boys, 6 and 8. They're really different kids. So the way that I support them as individuals is different. I have one son that is really he loves structure. He loves having a sense of purpose, and he loves being able to have control over what he does and how he uses things and what choices he makes. So he really is driven by that. My other son is also very social. But he is much more driven by having opportunities for being affirmed. He's much more laid back. So understanding how kids are different and being responsive to that in the ways that we interact with them, provide opportunities for them, can be so important in fostering natural engagement. I think it's also important that we have conversations about emotional competence. Our students with complex needs, complex bodies, giving language to emotions is an important part of development for all kids. And many of our students are dealing with, perhaps things that are even more weighty, things like exclusion or lots of medical situations where they may or may not fully understand what's happening. So, giving kids language related to emotions and dealing with emotive events can be so instrumental in their development. There is a research article that is linked in this module that looks at how we can kind of shape AAC tools to meet these emotional competence needs of students. And it talks about a 3-step process. And one of these is identifying an emotion. Often when kids are frustrated or upset, we might say to them, tell me how you feel, and give them a board or open up their communication display to their feelings. And the fact of the matter is, many kids don't make connections between what all of that means. In fact, some kids will choose happy when it's clear that that's not the case because that's what they've always done, or that's what they've always been encouraged to do, or that's always, what comes up in class. So identifying the emotion by describing it to them can be a really important first step. So saying you look sad or mad or frustrated gives them that first entry, that first word to start to unpack where they are. And then we can use language to talk about it. So the child may be able to contribute to this or they may not. You might be able to ask some questions, but you might have to make a best guess. You might need to reflect on the situation and use their tool to do so. I wonder if I wonder if someone was mean to you. I wonder if it didn't happen the way you thought it would. And then we can start to process that situation. We might give information about why it happened. We might make a plan for how we might do it next time, or what would make it better in this moment. So this process and using a child's AAC to work through this process um, it's a cumulative effect. It has to happen over time. But this is one of the things that is also discussed in quite a bit of length, actually, in Engage Naturally. As we engage naturally, again, we continue to value communicative attempts and attribute meaning to them. And in doing so, we develop that sense of I am. We build those meaningful relationships related to communicating and learning, and we validate contributions, which fosters meaningful relationships. We continue to invite participation and engagement so that we have an ongoing dynamic. We also build self-esteem, which is really necessary for self-determination and self-actualization. And these are important building blocks in achieving a high quality of life. So as we engage naturally and we use AAC to do it, we attribute meaning. We are building so much more than just a vocabulary, but we're really building that sense of self and that sense of belonging that we all need in order to achieve in our own worlds. Whew, so much information, so many good talking points and discussions. I imagine you're probably fairly overwhelmed at this point, and that's okay. We are going to just take a deep breath for a moment, and the next few slides are going to give you the opportunity to reflect on your learning and start to think about what is next for you. Again, this is just an overview, so there's a lot more to explore. First off, just by virtue of being here, you are doing something that makes you a fantastic communication partner. So kudos to you. I want you to think about what that is. You can turn to a partner and tell a partner, pause this video if you need more time, but just think about and share what are you currently doing that makes you awesome. Then I want you to think about one tidbit, one bit of information, one statement, one idea, one skill that you are going to use, a mindset shift even, that is going to make you a better communication partner. All right. Next up, just to kind of culminate some of these ideas, because perhaps you have lots of things rattling around in your brain, I want you to just take a moment to jot down as many ideas as you can related to MasterPal. What are the things that come to you that you're recalling from this? So just in 1 minute, let your ideas flow from one to the next and jot down what you can. Pause if you need to. All right, after you've done that, I want you to circle 2 or 3 ideas that have most resonated with you. What 2 or 3 things are you going to be thinking about tomorrow or next week? And then think about what action you are going to take to be a better communication partner. One actionable thing. And you might be thinking about yourself, or you might be thinking about, depending on what hat you wear, how you're going to support others to be a better communication partner of those who use AAC. So this is just a really quick exercise to get you thinking about what you've learned, what it means, and then what you can do with it. There's, I'm sure, much more in-depth discussions that can be had around this, but I hope that in some way you're able to synthesize and figure out how to move forward with Master Pal. Ultimately, this is the piece we want to keep in mind. This is from Rachel Langley. She's an AAC specialist who makes fantastic visuals to capture these really key ideas around communication. But the goal is not to create an echo, but to hear an authentic voice. May we always keep that in mind as we endeavor to be a Master Pal. Thank you so much for your time. There's the link to the training module if you need that again. And have a great day. Thank you.